Hi, I'm Noam Wasserman, Dean of the SciSim School of Business at Yeshiva University. I was a longtime professor at Harvard Business School, an entrepreneur, and a venture capitalist. I wrote the bestseller, The Founder's Dilemmas.
And I'm Charlie Harari. I've been working with companies for over 10 years. And that book, The Founder's Dilemmas, and the challenges faced by the 10,000 founders in it is the basis of this podcast. We are delving into the issues faced by startups to help you avoid the pitfalls that claim so many good companies.
Let's get started.
Welcome to the Founders Dilemmas podcast. Charlie Harari here with Dean Wasserman. We have an incredible guest, the part two of the guest, and I'll turn it back to the Dean to introduce our guest in the part two of this interview.
Okay, we of course have another round with Dr. Jonathan Donath, an ace chiropractor who is also a wonderful nonprofit founder of something called Daily Giving. He got into a lot of the ins and outs of what they do and the impact that they've had in our last episode. So please listen there if you didn't hear it. I'd like to probe a couple of the other things about the early days of the founding. There was one thing that Charlie seemed to be referring to as the idea having been fully formed from the beginning. Was that true? Was it really that what is Daily Giving today was the idea that was birthed out of the head of Zeus back in the beginning? Or was there a lot of the refinement, a lot of the pivoting and other things that typically go into taking an idea and being able to bring it to life?
I'd say the spine, if you will, the backbone of what we do is still exactly the same. We've grown. We started by giving 36 organizations. So every day a different organization got it, and every 36 days we repeated. We just recently, and over the years, we've added more as we've had more money to give out. We want to have a meaningful impact, right? So if we're very sensitive to the organizations that we're giving to, and then every time we add, we're diluting the amount they're getting per year, right? But at the same time, by having more partners and having great partners, there's more people to help us grow and get the word out. And so we're always find that balance. So every year, even though we've added, we've increased the amount we're giving to each organization. So we're now up to 80 or right around 80 organizations that we're giving to. But mostly it's really the same concepts. We, very, very subtle changes. It's more about the operational side, right? Like how we've gotten much more sophisticated, how we now have a CRM, that does a lot of things, a very sophisticated CRM that does a lot for us. And I hired a wonderful COO that, that's not my strength. Operations is not my strength, and his strength is operations. So it's more about systematizing and getting. How do we get the systems in place where we take this where we get 1,000 people to give $1 a day? Currently, we're at over 13,000 people giving a day, but we want to be ready to give 100,000 a day because we're going to get there. It's just a matter of, is it going to happen next year, the year after, or in 5 years?
Okay, so planning for scale. Some of the echoes that we have from Gilles Gade, from Yaakov Gade, when he was talking about Cross River Bank, and being able to maintain the core values, being able to have the culture that is going to be able to scale, and you're looking ahead to being able to plan around that. Let's get a little bit more into that team side of what you're talking about, hiring the COO, other things like that. You learning leadership, you learning how to be able to keep some things to yourself, but being able to delegate. Easy to do. How did you go through that kind of a process?
Yeah, I think it's called the Founder's Dilemma. I think we have to get into the nitty gritty a little bit, right? And I want to, we said some nice things, and I would tell you that it's definitely a work in progress, right? Like I feel as a founder, and I'm a type A perfectionist, and it hasn't been easy. I have a great VP and a great COO, and I lean on them tremendously. But it's hard because I have a full-time practice, and I spend full-time hours on Daily Giving as well, and the people that suffer is my family because I just get home at midnight every night, And so it's still. Even last night I had a conversation with one of my team members, like. It feels like the more people we hire, the more I keep getting. I'm getting deeper and deeper, and I'm not finding that balance. I'm just being honest. I haven't found that balance, but I'm working towards it. It's certainly a goal of finding that balance, and it's difficult of relinquishing control, not having them check with me before they blast something out to 13,000 people. And trust. I do trust my team, but they're saying I genuinely do trust them, but there's that. It's still difficult. It's my name. It's my and just so I'm not gonna say you can probe me more and I'll answer honestly whatever you ask me, but like it is difficult. I listened to your podcast because someone told me about it and I was like, hey, I want to hear the dilemma. I want to find out these things. And there have been lots of things I think were really helpful, and it was interesting hearing the different dynamics. And but it is difficult because, and I know they're, being the founder, people know when you hire people, it's difficult. You're the founder, and no one's I'm not getting paid, and it's my passion, and I'll work on it. I don't get burned out,
Right.
and then you have people that you pay, but they have families. You can't expect them to be on the phone at midnight.
Right. One of the interesting things about, I think, the evolution of a leader, a founder, a CEO, is they start to move from working only in the business to working on the business, and it's a real shift that they have. And I think you're going through it, which I think is the appropriate, sort of arc of this journey, is where founders start to realize that, in sort of stereotypical case, right, the Red Bull at 2 in the morning just isn't sustainable, and they can't be at every single meeting looking at every email. But it is that on the business vision. Is the business working? Are the people working? Am I delegating right? Do I have the right technology to support our goals? Am I building around me, both in human and in computer, all the pieces I need to get home before midnight? So I think what you're going through is exactly right as your company scales from small to mid or whatever. And I think when people are listening, it's the same concept, is the recognition that people that care, business or social profit, it's relentless. It never ends. You every second that you could be working on something, you're making it better. And no one's going to do it as well as you, because no one knows it and no one cares as much as you. But part of this process is most definitely, once you start working on your business, then you start seeing delegation maybe as a primary goal more than sort of perfection of email, which I think is a healthy place to be in.
Yeah, Jonathan, have you learned any particular lessons about delegating better that other founders would be able to learn?
Great question. Do more of it. Do more of it, and then get better, and just, I think that even my team, I'm blessed with an amazing team with Daily Giving. Why not give them a shout out? My VP, Rabbi Yisrael Abasrar, and Rabbi Aryeh Friedner, my COO. These guys are young whippersnappers. They're super talented, and I'm blessed to work with them, and I learn a lot from them every day. And even though I always trusted them, even from the beginning, I felt I trusted them. Time helped, right? The more things you do together, and the more they do things successfully, the more just the natural ability to delegate and be okay with them doing it, right? So we just today finished. We had a part-time employee who got an offer in the for-profit world, and we didn't want to lose her, and so we ended up. I let my CEO negotiate the whole deal. We're I just sort of said, okay, this is as far as high as I can go, and so again, these things I'm getting better at that, but I think the longer you do it, and the more you have these experiences with your team, and the more they do things successfully, you naturally are able to. Even though I thought I trust them, and I did trust them, now I'm able to pass on more and do those things and focus on more, like Charlie said, the bigger picture stuff, more work on the business. As a chiropractor too, I have other doctors that work for me, and I have employees. And so same thing, even though I still treat patients, I am a primary person treating patients, but a big part of my job as a doctor is I am working on the business. And then even in 6 months, I guess time flies. In April, my practice was acquired. So that's a whole nother interesting dynamic. For the first time in my 16-year career, I have a boss. That's been interesting. But yeah.
Yeah, so it's a perfect transitional point. I was actually going to compliment you on the metaphor you used before, given your day job. You said that the spine of the idea was still there, that it was there originally. That's the chiropractor in you talking about your reflections on daily giving. Let's get back into the intersection between the two of them. It also sounds, by the way, that you are very much still the spine of the business, so of daily giving, but being able to figure out how to build everyone else's muscles is kind of like the transition that you're going through, just to beat that metaphor to death. But let's get back into the carryover between the day job and daily giving. So did you learn lessons about building a team from the chiropractic practice? Did you learn things that were applied into daily giving? Let's see a little bit of the serial entrepreneur, the lessons learned and how they applied in gig number 2, which just happened to be in a different arena.
Absolutely. The first thing that comes to my mind is that I learned very early on, so I started my practice in 2006, I believe, or early 2007, maybe. And something I learned from really early on is that, if someone hands you $1, if you hand someone $1 and they hand you back 5, won't you do that all day? So, if it costs $100 to market something and you're going to get a $500 back from it, right? Yes, you have to treat the patient. Yes, whatever it is, right? But I learned very early on that to spend money to make money, right? And so I think with daily giving, I treat it like a business also. I know that we have such a high retention rate. People are so happy with daily giving that so we've only been around for just over 4 years, right? But when someone gives $1 a day, because very few stop, right? We could look at it as that a lifetime value of that person giving charity is thousands. One person signs up for $1. That's thousands and thousands of dollars of charity that we just raised, ostensibly, right? We're all on the same page, right? So if my customer acquisition cost is $52 to get a new giver, how's that for ROI, right? Like for $52, I'm going to get another Jew who's going to give thousands and then tell other people, and they're going to give thousands, right? It's like the kosher multi-level marketing of all multi-level marketing, right? But it's the ROI is incredible. So that's what I've been able to do recently, going to philanthropists and saying, hey, we don't take anything, but I want to get people say this all the time. How come I never heard of daily giving before? It's like, well, we haven't had money to market it, right? So that's my sales pitch, that when people sign up for daily giving, it's no one's stopping giving $1 less to Camp Hass because they sign up for daily giving. And Camp Hass knows that, and our partners know that. And so they help us. We're not cannibalizing any of their donations. And so that's just another nice thing, right? That the $7.5 million we've already given out, the $5 million a year we're already now giving out now. That's in addition to, it's not instead of, that's new money. So that's kind of, I kind of pulled some of that business stuff in mind from just building my practice from scratch and going to the point where, going from treating no one to having over 10,000 patients, and that sometimes you have to spend money to make money, and sometimes you have to market, even in nonprofit. If it costs me $52 to get a new giver, that's an amazing investment.
I think what you're bringing up is a critical point that I think a lot of founders do not do well, and is the disciplined approach towards spending money to make money, because a lot of people will toggle outside those margins. They'll either not spend money because they know how hard it is to make payroll. I recently spoke to a guy who sold his company for lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of money. And after he made the exit, he turned to me and he said, now I don't got to worry about payroll. Like, this guy had on his head for his whole, arc of his career that there's people that rely on him to pay their gas bill. And that could lead people to being very much penny pinching. And nonprofits can be great at that. We don't have enough, and whatever we make has got to go right to the client. And on the flip side, sometimes entrepreneurs, half of they're gun slingers, right? They love rolling the dice, and so they're willing to do stuff that really doesn't really connect. You don't gotta fly that way to that place. You're not gonna. And really, I think when you really look at the success of entrepreneurs, one of the things that, and I think we're highlighting it here, and one of them is that concept of the 9 o'clock at night phone calls that nobody knows about. But one concept that I think is a little less, sort of, maybe it's popular, but people don't really spend enough time on that discipline, is knowing exactly how to have disciplined ROI spending. It's a great point that I think is critical for people to hear.
So what are the key lessons that you learned in that realm, Jonathan, about how to bring discipline to it, criteria, prioritization?
I don't want to say I have it all figured out. I don't. I definitely don't. Something Charlie said, I want to just go back to for 1 second. As someone who had his own practice for 16 years, and I had to make payroll, right? Like you just said, people ask me, how's it going now? How are you liking the new office? And, and as I said, it's nice getting a paycheck, right? For the first time in my life, right? Like I had paychecks for myself, right? But it's really nice not having that stress of making payroll. every month I make a different amount of money my whole career, right? Like, so I never missed the payroll for my staff, but like there's a lot of stress involved with that. And
Sure.
and so there is that element. And now I'm 42 now, I've been in practice 16 years. Like it's I'm not gonna lie, I like getting a paycheck. It's a change. I wouldn't have been ready for it, but I love the first 16 years. Right? It has to be the right place, right time.
So you were the accordion in the finances of the practice until now. And then once you sold, now you're the consistency, and someone else is the accordion, the up and down each month.
That's right. And I think that for each person, that decision is the right time, it's just right place, right time for those decisions.
Yeah. So any reflections on the discipline side, or should we move into some of the juicy stuff around your exit decision later on?
Let's go to the exit, juicy stuff, whatever you want to ask. Yeah.
Okay. No, absolutely. So how did it even, would you anticipated when you founded back in 2006, selling, giving up your baby to some other parent? Was that in the cards back then?
I would have told you impossible, 0% chance. First of all, in the medical world, and my sister's a dentist, like dentists get acquired nowadays. There's less and less dentists that have private practice. They're all bought up by these conglomerates, but that doesn't actually exist in chiropractic. So this was, what I'm about to tell you, I truly feel is from the hand of God. I mean, everything's from the hand of God, but like, you could just sort of see, like the writing was on the wall. It was like one of those phone calls you get that just like, oh my gosh, I hung up and I knew my life just changed. And I got a call from a very well-known rheumatologist that he had sent me patients for years, and I'd sent him patients, and really world-renowned. And he called me about a business opportunity. He said, I just want to talk to you about a business opportunity. And he's telling me that this startup co-founded by Tony Robbins and Dr. Peter Diamandis, they're starting a regenerative medicine longevity startup. And they flew him down to Naples, Florida, and they wined and dined him, and they showed him. He's like, he also had his own practice his whole career. And they basically wanted him to be chief medical officer for the chief of medicine for this company called Fountain Life New York. And he's like, Jonathan, I never thought I would do this, but I was so impressed with the startup that I sold my practice, and I'm now the medical director of this startup. And I was like, wow, that's incredible. I didn't even see it coming. And then he said, they said they want a chiropractor to be the head of physical medicine of Fountain Life New York. And they asked me if I know someone good, and I recommended you. I'm like, what? So that's how it started. And it was like a total shock. And they flew me down on a private jet to Naples, Florida with my wife. And, and here I am a year later working for this Fountain Life. And they're doing these cutting edge things where they're flipping, I'm still doing the same thing. I'm still treating herniated discs and sports injuries, but now they're sending me celebrities up it's like a different world, a different level, but it's been an interesting ride. We're doing these full body MRIs and special CAT scans of the heart that can detect with AI, whether it's soft plaque or hard plaque, and these blood tests that can detect 50 different types of cancer 10 years before they're detectable in regular blood tests. And really cutting edge things. And I always worked with, I have over 70 medical doctors as patients, and they send me patients. So I've always worked with medical doctors, but I always wanted to work in an integrated medical setting. So it's very exciting, but there's pros and cons to everything. I'm just telling you the good stuff.
Yeah. So let's get into a little bit the change in the psyche. So you talk about 0% never happen. Was that the market would never come to you, or was that I will never sell my baby? I would never accept an offer.
No, totally the market. Like there's no market, because you sort of alluded to before, like my practice is, and even in the world when I was selling, we were like, the value of your practice, you could have a quote unquote valuation, but they knew that in my practice, that my practice is very personality driven, meaning they know those 10,000 patients, I'm the guy they're coming to, right? So I have other doctors, but it's still like, they know that the value, if they take me out, the value drops, and they know they're not stupid. So on paper, they say, okay, your value here, but we know if you're not, so we're only going to give you X, right? And I knew that you can never get what you really think your practice is worth. I will tell you like a huge negative, because I said a lot of positive. I just want to be honest. Like, I feel more pressure now to perform than I've ever felt in my entire career. And I don't even have people, I'm not getting calls. I don't have my superiors even coming to me with numbers and saying, you're not hitting your number. No one's talking. I'm not even saying that's happening, but I feel such an incredible amount of an internal pressure to produce like I've never felt.
Which I think is healthy. I mean, you're getting to the next level and you're trying new things. I think I would venture to say that that's like what gets you going. That's why you started Daily Giving, and that's probably why you're excited about where you are and why the enthusiasm is coming through the screen, is because the pressure of creating, right? The concept of yesh me'ayin, something from nothing. For some people, it's exhilarating, and I think that's part of the entrepreneurial itch that some people have. They just want to create stuff. They want to do stuff. They want to be at the edge. I don't know, and Dean, I wonder your opinion. I don't know if it's natural or it's nature, but you see this. I see this time and again with real entrepreneurs. This real deep down desire to push themselves, to go to the edge, to create something new, to pick up a phone and fly to Naples when that will just, you're not gonna say no to Tony Robbins in Naples, right? So you know when you're on that plane, it's a done deal. Whatever he says, the answer is gonna be yes. And when he asks you to bring your wife, you know that's for sure gonna happen. So the idea that you're giving up your life when things are going just fine, that has to be embraced because it's just who you are, I think.
Yeah, well, there's two sides to it that I've found with founders who exit. There's the intrinsic and there's the extrinsic. A lot of times the new owners, especially when they know that the founder is the spine of the business, they don't want to have that spine secede from the body. And so they will lock them in. They will have some kind of an earnout. They'll have handcuffs for a certain amount of time. And the pressure is going to come from that extrinsic, the golden handcuffs that will be keeping you there for a while. We had talked our first season about Lou Cerny, the founder of Wiley Technology. After that was sold to Computer Associates, he was locked in for a couple of years. And a lot of the financial gain that he would have would only come if he was going to be able to hit the targets that they were having to have on the earnout and things like that. And then as soon as that was gone, he disappeared to go and found the next venture. And so that's where he took on. He would prefer to have the refounding, being able to go into the second venture rather than continuing to, yes, draw the paycheck. But once the handcuffs were off, you could see like where he was actually going to be going. Jonathan, I assume, given what you were saying about the practice being personality driven, you, the centerpiece and things like that, I assume the acquirer also saw that and wants to make sure that you're not going to be able to disappear anytime soon.
That's right. Yep. I have a 5-year guaranteed contract. I'm signed up. I can't go anywhere for 5 years. I'm in blood,
Okay. So that's all some of the pressure. Also, there's even one founder that I know who, when he sold, he was faced with an 8-year earnout. That's almost a decade of his life that he would have to be signing away at this point. And that was very daunting for him and gave him a bunch of second thoughts around doing that. 5 years. A lot of times it's only the 2 years that Lou Cerny had. 5 years, quite a while. That might also be part of the pressure that you're also feeling that there's a horizon there and the things that you're going to be doing that now you're adjusting to a next phase of life and that new blueprint, the new mental mindset that you're bringing to the paycheck stage.
Sure. I mean, and also look, the carrot was the equity, that I have in the company, that could be worth nothing. It's a startup, right? I mean, thank God it's going well and what we're doing is amazing. And there's a 40,000 person waiting list to come do this testing at our center, but we don't know. So yeah, if it sells one day in the next couple, whatever, when it sells, is a chance that I would have never had as a single practitioner. I would never, and again, maybe it ends up being nothing, but then, okay, what did I have a salary, whatever, right? So, but that was the hope, right? That maybe as a chiropractor, I have a potential to one day it sells and when I finish my contract and maybe I just go do daily giving the rest of my life, continue. I would never, and I don't take a salary now and I don't ever plan to, but I don't have enough money to retire. And I really felt because this is my passion and I would like to do the daily giving full time eventually. And I never saw myself having enough money to retire to be able to do that. And so I felt like Hashem was putting this, potentially as that one day, to be able to do that.
Yeah. But when you were doing the practice before the sale, the ups and downs of the practice, the value of it and things like that was all riding on you. Now you're just one piece in a much bigger puzzle. Lots of other people who are affecting your equity stake and lots of other things that you don't have as much control over.
Yes, the lack of control is certain. I have a very little control now.
Well, we want to thank you so much for being here and for joining us and for really sharing so much insights. this, I think, Dean, is this the end of our season 2?
This is indeed. We have
Wow.
to figure out if there's going to be season 3, what it might look like. If people are interested, stick around for what might be coming up. But Charlie, it's been a wonderful ride. And thank you, Jonathan, for helping us cap it off and even sticking around for an extra half hour of the encore. So we'll see what the future might hold.
Yes.
Well, on behalf of your listeners, because I'm the only person here that can say this live as your listeners, you figure out, you guys should keep going. I know people think that you just get on there and like this doesn't take effort and work and time, and you guys are two of the busiest people I know. But you guys really are helping people, and I don't know what the feedback you get, but I'm just saying for me, like you guys, this is important work you're doing, and I know a lot of the other stuff you guys do is important also, but
we appreciate that.
This is really it's really great. So I encourage you. I don't know what your wives will think, but
we appreciate that, and we thank you, and we look forward to coming up with ways to continue to be part of this. And of course, if you're listening to the last episode of this season, please feel free to reach out to us on Founders Dilemmas Podcast at gmail.com. Share with us what you want to hear on season 3 as we start to map out the next season, and hopefully be something that you're interested in. Until then, we thank you all for being here tonight, and thank you in particular, Jonathan, for all you've done, and Dean for an incredible season. And we look forward to seeing you with God's help, season 3.